good, everybody? Welcome into an off season, but not really, because we've got signing day coming up on Wednesday. Edition of the Sunday Smash alongside Don Ira Schoffel. My name is Tom Lang. He's the managing editor of Warchant.com. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but we are excited to be here on Sunday Smash, presented by State Farm agent Russ Voorhis. With about 72 hours to go until that final signature should meet the page, until there's an 11th hour drama somewhere around the country. We just hope it's not here in Tallahassee for Florida State. Ira, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great, Tom. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. Wanted to see where Florida State goes and what direction they'll go with the class this week. Right now, On3 industry number 4 class in the country. Then, of course, there's transfer portal candidates. They had the two big quarterbacks come in this weekend, and Cam Ward, DJ Uyunglele. I'm off to a rousing start on Sunday Smash. Maybe I should have more water from Gordo's. Looking forward to getting some answers on those particular visits. It was a big weekend, Ira, but there's a lot of stuff, too, team-wise, that's coming up really quickly. It feels like it's been a minute since we've seen this football team practice, and we're finally going to get the opportunity to see Florida State football, like the guys who are here, actually, on Tuesday. But it's been a bit of a break, man.
Yeah, and I think you were kind of alluding that Michael Langston will be come on to kind of tag out with me at some point during the show to really kind of focus on some of the recruiting stuff. I can just tell you what I read and what the videos I watched and all that. But yeah, as far as the team coverage goes, yeah, it has been kind of weird. I think some of the subscribers on our site and FSU fans in general are kind of chomping in the bit to just see what this team is going to look like in the bowl game, and then also going forward. Some of that started to come clearer picture over the last day or so, as some guys have announced that they're going to go to the NFL. And I do like the point where we're at now in college sports, where even guys who've played 6, 7, 8 years of college football, who've used every possible eligibility that they have, still are going to announce that they're declaring for the NFL draft. It's cool. It gives them a chance to at least thank the fans and thanks everybody for supporting them. But it also, in some of these guys' cases, they did have eligibility remaining, but I don't think there's really been any surprises when it comes to the NFL stuff. I mean, the guys that announced so far, especially, the underclassmen, Jaheim Bell, Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson. I don't think anybody expected any of them to stay. And then there's going to be a few more. We certainly expect, Jared Verse. We expect Keon Coleman and probably a couple others to announce they'll be going to the draft as well.
A lot of guys in the portal, too, that did have eligibility that just said, sayonara to Florida State. CJ Campbell was one, Ira, and that piece that you wrote on CJ Campbell last week. If anybody's just kind of dusting themselves off and getting back into Florida State coverage, I highly recommend the article. It's a great look into all that CJ Campbell has been through. But obviously you saw it today. Also, was it Coach Yak that kind of quote tweeted CJ's goodbye message? It almost confirms, Ira, that he might not be coming back. CJ Campbell to Florida State. That's what it felt like to me. That running back room for the Orange Bowl is going to be completely different. Lawrence Toafili figures to play in the game, but Trey Benson moving on, Rodney Hill, CJ Campbell. I mean, those are the three principal figures that you saw, Ira, on the field outside of Toafili in the ACC championship game. So that's going to be one room that looks different. Fabian Lovett, I think he's one of the people you were alluding to that might not have another day, another hour, another minute of college eligibility, saying goodbye. I would expect to see more defensive linemen, younger defensive linemen on the field for this game against Georgia. But it's strange because they have started bowl practice, and we got to see those a little bit earlier last year, relatively speaking, Ira. So I think there's going to be a bit of education for everybody once they get to see exactly what team lines up on Tuesday ahead of Orange Bowl preparation.
Yeah, and I think, Florida State fans have been in a unique situation during the opt-out era. I don't really think, the last time Florida State was going to meaningful bowl games, that wasn't a thing. You didn't have guys opting out all over the place. And now, and then last year when Florida State kind of got back to bowls of somewhat relevance, you're playing Oklahoma, and it's a decent tier bowl game. It's not one of the New Year's Six games. But the players were so excited to get to 10 wins. Like, they had bought in to that idea, and so many of them were going to be coming back this next year. So you didn't have you just didn't have a lot of guys being pulled in a lot of different directions. And then the few guys you did have who were planning to play in the NFL were not necessarily first round or second round talent. So Dylan Gibbons or Jamie Robinson or some of those guys, Jasmine Turntine, guys that didn't have a lot to lose if they could play in that game. They were going to try to play in that game. This is the first year now where Florida State's kind of where everybody else has been for the last few years, the elite teams in terms of, it's just opting out is now it's a legitimate concern, and it's a legitimate thing to do. Like, I don't know how many fans blame guys for that. You'll see some people on social media that blame guys for it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how you can realistically blame guys, especially when the season ended the way they did. I mean, not only is Florida State back in this unique position, but then the way things ended, I guess people in their minds can come up with a scenario where the players all rally around each other and say, we're going to beat Georgia, and say, screw the college football playoff committee and all that. I don't think that was ever realistic. I mean, I think that this is where it was going to go. And I think the way you have to look at this bowl game is very much, as you alluded to, at the defensive line. And I think a lot of these positions, running back's another one. I think you're going to see a lot of Kyle Holmes and Sam Singleton, and a lot of these positions, wide receiver, you're going to see a lot of Hakeem Williams and Destin Hill. And it's going to be really about giving those young guys a chance to kind of get their footing, because that's going to be the nucleus of this team going forward.
Well, and we haven't gotten confirmation about everybody just yet. Like, for example, Jerrion Jones is in. He's going to be playing in the Orange Bowl. He announced that this week on social media. So you could get some yeses from some guys who want to put a little bit more film out there for the next level to consider. Jerrion Jones in the same post said he's moving on to professional football, and then he's going to play. But one group that's going to be interesting to me, Ira, is linebacker. I mean, DJ Lundy entered the portal this week, but I don't know that it's in the best interest if I'm Kalen DeLoach or Tatum Bethune to try and gut it out and play in that game, especially as banged up as they both have been in the past couple of seasons. So if you combine, I'm just going to speculate here. I don't think we've got confirmation on that, but if you're going to combine Tatum and DeLoach and Lundy all out, well, those are your top three guys. What the heck is that position going to look like against Georgia?
Yeah, and that's what I expect to happen. And like you said, none of them have announced anything. Tatum and Kalen DeLoach have not announced anything. Kalen did tweet something a couple of days ago, basically like, you guys don't, I've done everything I can for the school, basically, and he's right. Kalen DeLoach has been here for 5 years. He came here under Willie Taggart and didn't leave. He stayed through those first couple of years under Mike Norvell and didn't leave, even when they took away his starting job. And he is a guy that has really come through it to go from a guy that you didn't even know if could play linebacker at a high level at this level to being a first-team All-ACC guy by the time he's done. Tatum Bethune has been a huge impact to this team. He's played 5 years of college football. Those guys, one more game of tape is not going to change a lot for them. And to me, their position is so much different. You mentioned Jerrion Jones. I think it's awesome that Jerrion Jones is doing that. I think it was not orchestrated, but I think it's not a coincidence. He was the first guy to announce, I'm playing. I think that he's got a very close relationship with his coaching staff. He's a leader on this team. I think that they're hoping that might, any guys that are kind of on the fence might encourage them to come back as well. But I think defensive back's a different type of position. The collisions at linebacker, the physical wear and tear on the lines of scrimmage, to me, are different than playing defensive back. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if some of those older defensive backs like Keem Dent or Renardo Green are probably the two guys you'd be concerned about opting out. It wouldn't shock me if they played, but it would shock me if Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach played. So you're going to see, you're going to see Omar Graham, you're going to see Blake Nicholson, you're going to see, DeMarco Ward, some of those guys. And I think you're going to, again, they're probably going to play more nickel. They've got, they've played a lot of 4-3 this year because you had a lot of good linebackers that they wanted to get on the field. I think in this game, you're probably going to go back to more 4-2-5 and only play a couple linebackers. And really, you've got a lot of depth at safety, at defensive back, even if those guys opt out.
Well, what the heck is the offensive line going to look like? Bless Harris is now committed to TCU. Ira, one of the questions I hope Mike Norvell or one of the things he takes the liberty to speak on is just how injured this bunch was and how much they were playing through all season. You could see it in November. Almost every position group, guys were battling and fighting. And I think nobody went through more, in my opinion, than Maury Smith to gut it out and play every single week. So I don't know that it's the right decision. Even if he were to say, come back next year for year 52 in the system, like, I don't know that it would be the right move for him to play in the Orange Bowl, considering my man, his body could use a break. So you consider that would be another starter with Bless Harris, who, when he was healthy enough, he rotated in and out at the very least. Where's Darius Washington at health-wise? Where's Robert Scott at health-wise? Does a guy like Casey Roddick want to take one more opportunity to play? I mean, this is going to be quite the roster and quite the two deep. I hope they release a two deep for this game at some point before they kick it off.
Yeah, and I think that's why, as you mentioned, we haven't been out of practice. They have practiced some over the last week or two, over the last week or so, but they have not allowed the media out there because I think they're really trying to sort this out. Like, what is this team going to look like? And again, I hear us talking about it, and I'm sure people are like, well, geez, why would I watch this game? Well, you got to realize Georgia's going to have a lot of this too. Yep. They're not going to be immune. It's not like they're going to have the team that rolled out there in the SEC championship game against Alabama is going to be the same group that plays against Florida State. So there's going to be some of that on their side as well. But I really think, and again, it would have been a dream scenario. I get it. Everybody hated the College Football Playoff Committee. You'd like to tell Herb Street and Feinbaum and the rest of them to go stick it up where the sun don't shine and win that game. And maybe they can win that game. But what's more realistic is I think you need to look at the 2023 season has ended in Charlotte with that undefeated 13-0 season, winning that AC championship, beating both your rivals, doing all the great things this team did in 2023, and then look at this game as an opportunity for a bunch of young guys and, the Jarrian Joneses, and if any of those other veterans want to go out one more time and have, one last chance with their teammates, that's awesome. And that, every one of those that does it gives you a better chance to win, gives you a better chance to be competitive. So that's awesome that Jarrian's doing it. And maybe some of these other guys will do it as well. It wouldn't shock me if some of these other seniors who are going to the NFL or juniors going to the NFL decided to play. But, I don't think you need to look at this game. This, to me, whatever happens this game, to me, is not a referendum on this team or where the program is going. It's just one game kind of in the ether before you kind of continue building this team for next year.
Yeah, to me, it's like a spring game where the quarterbacks are live and special teams are actually played out. It's just you get an opportunity here to make a statement if you're somebody like a Hakeem Williams or a Destin Hill if he's healthy enough to play, and that's another thing. You got to sort out who's actually healthy enough to play in the game from the underclassmen ranks. But here's a chance to make a stamp before you get into spring camp. Mm-hmm. I know that's not the way anybody wanted this situation to be, but here we are. And on that note, Ira, we come at this a little bit differently in our two gigs. This is my alma mater. I've always cared about Florida State in a way that's extra emotional because they've always been my team since my sister went here in the 90s. You've covered this team and this program for a long time, and you've seen all the ups and the downs. But I got to tell you, talking to any fan, every fan like me in town, not in town, family, extended family, they all say the same thing, Ira. It's been 2 weeks and it hasn't gotten any better. In fact, a lot of them they're more angry about the situation as time goes on. It hasn't softened the blow from the playoff committee. I'm just wondering from your perspective how you see it, how you feel it 2 weeks out.
No, I mean, it hasn't lessened at all for me. I mean, and to me, and it is different for me from you and a lot of FSU fans because I didn't grow up an FSU sports fan. I didn't grow up a college sports fan when I was in my formative years till I started going to college. I really didn't know what college football was really all about until that time. And as a journalist, I'm not going to feel it the way, you will and a lot of the people watching this will. But as a lover of sports and competition and fairness and what's right and wrong, this is going to piss me off forever. And that's why, and I will never stop tweeting at Herb Street and those people. I will never stop. I don't think I ever will. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch any of those people who lied through their teeth about what just happened and not see them through that prism for the rest of my life. I don't think I'll ever see that any differently. And it doesn't matter if it goes to 12 teams or goes to 24 teams or whatever. Like that's how I'm always going to see it. And I think what the only sense of gratification I have right now is I think the fact that you're seeing Herb Street still getting emotional about it, the fact that you still see them, people at ESPN and people at the College Football Playoff Committee still mounting their defenses and trying to explain things. I think it's going to eat at them for the rest of their lives as well. And so we'll see. I mean, they're sleeping in $1 million homes. I don't know if it's going to keep them up at night, but I do think, they know they screwed Florida State and we know it and nothing's going to change that.
No, you're right. A lot of the casuals will say it's going to 12 teams next year, so it's not that big of a deal in the long run. It's never like there are times, Ira, that FSU Twitter, even though I'm on Twitter and I'm an FSU guy in terms of media coverage, they're ridiculous. This is not one of those
Not
times.
one of those
This is
times.
not one of those times. Anything that's within reason. I'm just talking about the passion, the engagement, the relentlessness, like you're speaking about.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable. This is it. It has not gotten easier 2 weeks later, and it never will. Ira, the pandemic was what kept us from seeing whether Trent Forrest and those Seminoles could get to the Final Four. That was a worldwide event. This was 13 people in a room in Texas.
Right, and that's to me there's the big difference. The 2020 Florida State men's basketball team will always wonder what if, and we'll always feel bad of how that played out, and we'll always just kind of wonder about that team and feel bad for them, but not the same way as this. This was something that you earned. This is something that this team earned and fought for and played through. You mentioned it. All the things they went through this season. This was not a team. This was not the 2013 team that cruised, that steamrolled everybody. This team, they had to find a way so many different times to get to that finish line. And then just as they get to the finish line, somebody just tears it down and says, "Oh no, you actually weren't even in the race. It didn't matter what you did." I mean, so yeah. This is to me, this is completely different, and it's more, I think it's always going to be a little bit more anger than sadness, whereas I think the basketball is probably a little bit more sadness than anger.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. This is vitriol. It's not going away. I look forward to seeing a lot of Noles in Dublin, and I'm sure. Let's just make sure that those are happy memories and that those are happy Guinnesses that everybody shares. Not with angry energy, but happy energy. It's just go ahead.
Can I just say one thing, just because I know my time's going to wind down here, so people can hear what they really want, which is recruiting news. I just want to reiterate what I said before is like that season, like I'm still very excited about next season.
Yeah.
And you think about what Florida State's doing right now, some of the moves that they're trying to make in the transfer portal, Pete Nakos, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, from On3 just has a story on the website about, Florida State's the only, DJ Uyunglele and Cam Ward are two of the top quarterbacks available in this transfer portal. Florida State's the only one that's gotten 2 of the top 10 on their campus. And Florida State's, got a chance now with, it may be a situation where they get to pick. It may be a situation where they get one of the 2. Either way, there's a very good chance you're going to have a very experienced quality college quarterback on this team next year to go with what you already had. If you look at what they've built, the talent on this team, even with some of these guys who are leaving, I still am very excited about what this team could do. I'm very excited about what Mike Norvell has built in this program. And so, yeah, next year is going to be a lot of fun, no matter even as much as this stunk and no matter what the bowl game looks like. It's not going to change my perspective. I don't know. Is it going to change your perspective at all going into spring practice?
No. Now there's this, the revenge tour idea. A lot of people cited the revenge tour this season, and Florida State going 13-0. There's a measure of that. Like the roadie to Wake, they took personally. It wasn't just the fans.
Right.
That locker room took that personally. You documented that. You were on the ground for it. Now that climb, that one to where, they can't keep you out of the invitational.
Right.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch the steps that they take. I don't know that they can take all of them next year, but getting a quarterback out of the portal like one of these 2 would help.
Gives you a chance.
And so the last question I'll ask you, Ira, and then we'll brag on Russ Vorhis, because he did something really cool this week. Just when you worry about the dregs of humanity, like the College Football Playoff Committee, then people remind you about the good and things and the good in the world. But between DJU and Cam Ward, who do you like for Florida State?
I was talking to somebody about this last night. I lean towards DJ just because I know more about DJ. Like I've seen him play in person. I've seen him play a lot. I watched a lot of Clemson games, even when they weren't playing Florida State, just because they're in the ACC and they're getting ready to play Florida State. And so I've watched a lot of him, and I always felt like, for whatever reason, rightly or wrongly, I thought they had made it so clear to him when he was at Clemson that they had no confidence in him throwing the football, that it changed him as a quarterback. There was a time when he was a 5-star quarterback, and it wasn't just because he's a big, strong kid. And I thought that the way they used him made it clear to him that they did not have any confidence in him. They didn't trust him. They'd run him draws on 3rd and 7. I mean, they just did not want him throwing the football in any obvious passing situations. But I've seen him play well when he came here a couple years ago. So I think, to me, I know, and it's mentioned in Pete's article as well, that he's got an unnamed college general manager saying that, he knows that DJ's been in pro style offenses.
Yeah.
Cam Ward has not really been in pro style offenses, at least as far as we know. So is it going to translate as well? We'll see. I don't have any doubt Mike Norvell will tailor things to whoever he has at quarterback. So I think he'll make it work. But I'm a little bit more partial to DJ just because it's a little bit more of a known to me. I just didn't watch a lot of Washington State, but I obviously have great respect for the numbers. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves with Cam Ward. So I don't think they could go wrong. They both seem like good kids in terms of like, you don't hear bad things about either one of them. They both seem like guys that, would probably fit in well. We know that the staff does a good job of that, of marrying newcomers with existing teams. So I just think they're in a good spot. The fact that that both of them showed the interest to come on this visit, again, speaks to what this program is doing and what Mike Norvell is all about.
No, agreed. That's well said. The number one concern I have for DJ is the inconsistency with the passing and the accuracy. The number one concern I have with Cam Ward is he put the ball on the ground 14 times this last year.
Right.
14 times. Can't be having that. But there's a lot of pluses, more pluses than negatives. That's why they're here on campus. So, Ira, before we say adieu for now, State Farm agent Russ Voorhis helped. He joined in the Warchant community in the Tallahassee area's charge for the guardian ad litem of the Big Ten of the Second Circuit this week. He helped contribute to what was basically, when you include the toys that people raised for the bowling tournament on Monday night, $10,000 to the guardian ad litem of the Second Circuit. And we want to thank Russ for being one of those who supports local charities like the guardian ad litem. Ira, great job this week. You came to the bowling tournament. Thank you for helping elevate the voice of the shows this week. And to that end, now it's about a 5-figure donation to the guardian ad litem. So thank you to Russ as well. And he's more than just a nice guy, Ira. He also knows a heck of a lot about insurance, and he can help you throughout 3 states as well.
He is. He's a very, very knowledgeable, very experienced in insurance. And like you said, he's got 2 offices over there in the Jacksonville area, in Jacksonville Beach and Orange Park, where you can go in person and get the face-to-face contact and really sit down with you and kind of go over your options with any kind of insurance you need. But then also, if you are in Florida, Georgia, or Alabama, just give them a call. Go to their website. They get a lot of people to russvorhis.com, Russ, RUSSVORHIS.com. And they get a lot of people that request information there. Then you get a follow-up phone call, and they'll walk you through it as well. So and that's cool, man. I didn't realize he supported the cause, and that's awesome. And congratulations to you and Jeff. What you guys did is really remarkable, and it means a lot to Tallahassee.
It does. Well, and thank you to everybody out there in the chat, because there was a big turnout on Thursday. So, Ira, cheers to you. It's going to be a week of, probably some bullets will be sweated out, the pores, the 11th hour kind of stuff. And we're going to talk to Michael about that in just a minute. But I'll see you on that 10:30 Zoom call where we figure out exactly how we're going to line it all out for this week.
Talk a little signing day. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your show.
Thank you. 15 seconds from Russ Voorhis right now.
Contact Russ Voorhis for an auto quote today.
Almost the perfect time to segue. Like, that 15 seconds is nice. It's clean. And here he is now, the senior recruiting analyst for Warchant.com. He was out there on the tail end of a nor'easter this morning as it blew through Tallahassee. His name, obviously, is Michael Langston. Michael, how you doing on a Sunday night?
I'm good. Another busy weekend. Certainly, I feel a profitable one. Anytime you have 2 transfer quarterbacks on campus, one talented defensive end that happens to be a legacy recruit, and then obviously you have all the commitments. Certainly 5-star plus KJ Bolden there. So there was a lot going on as they put a bow on this potential class coming up, and it was an exciting weekend. It was an interesting weekend, just different ways of, both tracking down people and just, trying to get as many interviews as we can. Matt Lassere did a great job as far as I think he tracked down the big Cam Ward story and got that really quickly and just a lot of grunt work. It wasn't just us. Ira was handling things. You were handling things with the updates and the videos. So kudos to our team. I just love our team. I mean, guys, when I say this team is a real team, it is like we do everything together. So kudos to everyone on the staff if I'm forgetting somebody because it is a team effort. It's not just me that I'm just handling recruiting and nobody else. I mean, I always want to make sure that I give these guys all the love they can because you guys all help us. It's a team thing, and but really good weekend and certainly a long weekend and it's not over. I will have a recruiting wrap late tonight. I'll probably be late tonight because I got to take some calls and see what I'm hearing as far as all these visits go, and then all the I guess the remaining guys that they could possibly potentially land. So yeah, pretty fun.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Michael. It was a fun morning. It was a busy morning,
Oh
and
yeah.
last week was good too. Don't get me wrong, but there are some heavy hitters this week that showed up on campus. Some big time names, some guys that have been locked in with Florida State forever, like Cam Davis, and he's a great interview. I think he's going to be a perfect fit
Yeah.
in that locker room. But I do want to start with the portal first.
Yeah.
Quarterback. I mean, if it was Michael, if there was a battle for a guard job, and we were picking between two. Maybe that's not what you lead with, but it's quarterback. And we're talking Cam Ward and DJU. What do you think about the way Florida State handled the visits? They got Cam in first, DJ right behind him. Maybe they were on campus at the same time briefly. I'm not sure. But how do you think Florida State came out of it in both those quarterbacks' eyes? And do you think Florida State has a pick of who they like more at this moment, or are they still kind of studying and making a call on that?
Yeah, I think they handled it phenomenal. I was like thinking, like, how are they gonna do this? Like when I first heard they were, both visiting and they did it about as poetic as you could do it. Cam got there, around Thursday and then did the visit, did all the meet visit on Friday. And then he was gone by, really, really early in the morning on Saturday. I want to say around 3 a.m. And then DJ comes in there. He got there Friday night. Maybe some overlapping as far as maybe dinners and stuff like that. But overall, I think it was just perfectly executed. And two, I think the main thing is when you're hosting two guys like that, you have to make sure all of them are getting the priority time. With whether it's tow cards, whether it's Norvell, and they did an excellent job of making sure each one of them, felt like, hey, we need you, like you're a priority to our program. And both of them, my takeaway from both of them was phenomenal guys. Phenomenal guys of if you put these guys in the locker room, the quarterback, in my opinion, is always the most pivotal player on the team because he has the ball. He's the only guy on the field that has the ball in his hands every play, or basically every play. So I like to see body language of stuff that I look for. Matt talked to Cam, and he sounded really good. And then obviously I got up with DJ today, and I was blown away of just his calm demeanor and to just it's really impressive when you have a guy that played at Clemson, and I know he plays at Oregon State now, but and now in the portal, but the way he praised Jordan Travis was extremely impressive. It wasn't just like, yeah, this guy is good. It was kind of like he's done so much for Florida State. He understands that. So a guy that potentially could be coming into your program understanding the value of a Jordan Travis and the value of what he's done for this program the last 3 years is, I think, a big deal to me. As far as a priority, I mean, I just got a sense like this is just me, guys. It's not me getting intel. It's more so my opinion of I feel like Cam Ward is the guy, that if I was picking one that I think they would prefer, I haven't heard that. I'm just, like I said, it's just my opinion. But I think they would love either one. Like, I think just the body language of stuff that DJ said since it felt like more like I'm sold on it and they're sold on me. But it wasn't like, I don't know, the push that I felt when Matt interviewed Cam. So it's close, but That's kind of my feeling of just coming out of the interviews. Like I said, I think they wouldn't be visiting if FSU wasn't really high on both of them. And I think they're really high on both. But I listened to Ira and what he said, and a lot of what he said makes a lot of sense. If you sense like the offense, the calmness of what they run, ball protection, as you mentioned, 14 turnovers for Cam, that's a concern. And two, as a couple of friends of mine say, DJ's basically a war horse. When you look at him, he's massive, big. Certainly, you feel like he could take the beating if you go in there and all that stuff. And for the most part, I think he protects the ball, very well. I don't know his numbers offhand. I want to say 27 and 2 or 3 as far as interceptions. I could be off a little bit on the total numbers, but I think overall, I think protecting the ball is a big thing for me. But I think they're both very high. But that's kind of what I've kind of heard through, the process, that I feel like both of them are very high, and it's one where we felt like DJ early on was the guy, and then there started buzz about Cam as well. I think, and I've said this to you before when I was on here, I think Cam is the more dynamic one,
Hmm.
also one that can probably turn the ball over a little bit more. The other one, so it's kind of like juggling, which one is the best fit overall of, hey, this guy can do everything we want, so let's roll with him. So I don't think there's like a definitive, we're going after this guy, but I that's just kind of the body language I got from the interviews and just throughout the weekend of just, if I was picking one that I think they would push a little bit harder, would be Cam, but it's close.
Yeah, I agree. You know what, Michael? I totally agree when it comes to dynamic, big boom rate, big bust rate for Cam relative to DJ, which is a little safer. And he has his down moments too, where like there are wide open dudes and he misses them.
Right. Right.
But he protects the ball.
Yeah.
Cam's rushing numbers are huge. But then
Yes.
DJ, that offense that is now moving to Michigan State is impressive. There's a lot of pro style under center elements to it. It's very multiple the way that Mike runs his offense. I think it's a more natural fit. But it'll be interesting to see what they prioritize, because it seemed to me, Michael, you were there. You were hearing the questions and the answers from DJ today.
Mhm.
It seemed like, if they want me, I'm here. That's the energy I felt from that interview. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to illustrate. And two, like I said, I've said this before. If you're looking for a boom for recruiting, both of them are going to be boom for recruiting, because both of them are very well known recruiting. While I think DJ was the number one rated quarterback in the country when he came out of high school, a 5-star. Certainly, he has a lot of credentials to him. As I said, it's just about what one did you trust the most for this team. That's the thing people forget, is like, it's not what they did for their other team. It's not what Cam Ward did for Washington State. It's not what DJ did for Oregon State. It's, does this guy fit what the players we have now? Now Mike can organize, and Mike's shown, and I think that's why Cam is so very interested in FSU, because he's shown the ability to adjust to a guy that's maybe not the typical Mike Norvell quarterback. If you look at the history of a guy just really electric and runs around, I think most of his quarterbacks are mobile, but they, pass first guys. So, and Jordan wasn't that when he first got him. They had to develop that with Jordan with his passing. So I think that also was heavy intrigue with Cam, of how they utilize that they were able to develop him. And I think that's a big part. But I think it's too, like, the calming demeanor is also another thing that I really like, just when I'm around DJ. So it's going to be an interesting decision of what they do, and I feel both of them. I think if one way or the other, if they made a pick and they wanted to, I think they feel good about, both of them. I've heard more about Cam just because what you said, like, hey, if you want me, or DJ, hey, if you want me, I'll take you. But then Cam, it's more like, reserve, where we know you visited Miami, you visited,
Mhm.
FSU. And so there's a lot of dynamics of which one you choose. I think some people would be like, hey, let's take Cam because it screws Miami the most, because that's the one they're going after. So I think it's really just comes down to comfort and what fits you as a program, and that's something they'll have to figure out and decide. But I don't think you could really go wrong, Tom, with either one of them.
I tend to agree. It'll be interesting to see what Florida State, what the players decide over the next few days. I would imagine, Michael, obviously that neither of them put a real timeline on it, but sooner than later, you got to be enrolled for spring and get in. to classes so you can participate, get to know the offense. It'll be fascinating to document. But let's pivot now a little bit more to the high school side. I should comment on that. William put a comment in there. Florida State's reputation as a developer of quarterbacks, that's a great thing to have as a reputation.
Yeah.
After the Jordan thing worked out and it passed with flying colors, that is what gets you blue chippers to run, whether it's in the portal or it's out of high school ranks, to make sure that they see what you're all about. So that's a great thing that Florida State's reputation is there. But we want to take questions now for Michael in terms of recruiting. I'll start with Tony Greco's, because you asked him the question, this 5-star plus prospect, and we got a little video short of it up on social media about, are you going to sign with Florida State on Wednesday? Michael was not having it. He said, come on. The game's being played here, KJ. Are you go, and so he said, what to you and what sense did you get when you were standing next to KJ Bolden for the interview?
It wasn't. It's a funny story what led to that, because Grandma was obviously, Grandma's there ready to go, and so we were able to figure something out. Get KJ for like 1 minute, and I was like, if he comes back over here, I'm just going to ask him directly, "Are you signing with FSU?" The answer was kind of good, but it wasn't what I wanted to hear, like solidified, like stamp on it. It's done. I know Georgia and Auburn are still working hard behind the scenes. My take was like, it was not everything I was wanting to hear, but it's kind of one of those things where he said things that you liked, but it wasn't like the final. I'm moving on. Like, he has called the Auburn and Georgia coaches and said, "Hey, I'm going here." I still think they're working hard behind the scenes, and I think FSU feels good, and people around KJ feel good that it would likely be FSU. But at the same time, it's not gonna make me feel at ease until certainly that letter of intent comes in on Wednesday. I think fans are gonna sweat it out just to tell you guys how I'm feeling. I mean, I feel it's likely, but at the same time, I was looking for I'm shutting it down. This is where I'm going, for sure thing. Now maybe that's out of respect for Auburn and Georgia. Maybe you want to call them up later and say, "Hey, coach, appreciate you recruiting me," but maybe he didn't want to say that at that point without talking to them. So that's kind of probably another dynamic. But I think FSU knows, like, one, they did everything that they wanted to hit on, and I'll say, I said this last night. And when I did some nuggets, I mean, the feeling around the visit was a guy that plans on being there. Like that was the feeling around the visit. Now, like I said, people are going to sweat until he does it. But I think, certainly you still have to put it in, position. Cause I said going into it, need to know kind of where you're at, and it's like, "Hey, are you coming or not?" And I wasn't going to let you guys down when I got him a second time. You give me a second chance, I want to make sure I get it right. So I wanted to make sure that that question was out there. And then there was some follow-up questions about if you're visiting Auburn. You said, "No, I'm not going on the visit there." So, but overall, I don't think it's not going to be finished until we get that final thing. Sorry, guys. Travis Hunter is burned me forever. So I'm just very hesitant until I get the final thing where we hear, like, both from Auburn contacts, Georgia contacts, people close to KJ and FSU, that it's done. But at the same time, I am going to give you some positive that I do feel like people around KJ and people from the FSU side feel that it's likely that they're in good shape. But it's just one of those situations where you have to be careful.
It wasn't like Cam Davis interview. Yeah,
No.
I hear you on that. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a fool's errand, Michael, but we're peeking around the corner as a fan base looking for danger because of the Hunter situation. And I think that's a natural response.
Yep.
There was again, here's the fool's errand, trying to break down tweets, but I just want to present this to you. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter just a little bit ago, in which KJ Bolden tweets out something to the effect of the old eyeball emoji, and he tags LJ McCray in it. I know Director Ben's got it behind the scenes. But then there that is. He posts that to LJ McCray, and he's saying, "Come on," basically. And then LJ McCray responds with a "I'm thinking on it" emoji. Mm-hmm. Now, Michael, that could be a good thing, or it could be, Auburn, who's working very hard on both of those guys.
Yeah.
Again, we're parsing social media. This is part of the game, I suppose. But when you see that, does that, tip off anything to you, or are you just thinking, I don't know, maybe they could, maybe Bolden is lobbying for the Noles to go grab McCray and bring him to Tallahassee?
I mean, there's 100 different ways you could think of it. I think it's more like KJ enjoys recruiting,
Mhm.
whether it's a feeling or not. You could take that as certainly pro FSU. I have heard behind the scenes that he has been recruiting, fairly hard for FSU. That was kind of the wording I got through people around their side. But I mean, you could take that 100 different ways. We know Auburn's trying to get him, but we also know Florida feels good about their position with McCray. So I would lean more towards just the FSU side of it, but again, you could take that 100 different ways. And like I said, I feel KJ enjoys this energy around recruiting.
Mhm.
He kind of commented on that, like about the reporters. I think Chad Simmons said something like, "Hey, I think this one's still interesting and stuff like that." And I think KJ was responding to that. I can't imagine he's responding to me just asking him questions, or the media, but that were on site. But I think it's more just to. I think he enjoys this stuff. I think he likes it, and I also think like there hasn't been a final, call where he's called the other apps and said, "Look,
Mhm.
appreciate you doing this, but this is where I'm going." Now maybe that leaks in the next day or so, or 48 hours or whatnot before Wednesday, but certainly I think he enjoys. That's the impression I got. He enjoys all this stuff, but that's kind of where things sit as far as what I've heard throughout that weekend on him.
So 15 minutes or so more. We want questions for Michael on this recruiting class. And you can ask portal questions too, like
Yeah, yeah.
Jen does. This question came in close to the top of the show. Just wanting to know, why don't we have any portal commits yet? Why don't we have any portal commits yet? So do you think, Michael, that's because the quarterback's got to make a call and then maybe there's a domino effect there? Or what are your thoughts?
My thing is, I've told you guys this from the start. If you're on Warchant, you know exactly how I feel. Like they're going to be very selective of getting the right guys. Like they're not going to just jump in. And I think the only thing that surprised me with Cam in the interview was like, you know, it felt like at first you felt like he was kind of in a hurry to do it. Then you kind of, when we interviewed, it was like, no, he's not actually in a hurry. So I think that plays into it, and I think it's just FSU making sure they get it right. I know you guys see Ole Miss getting trillion commits and all these other schools, and so I get that, Jen, of why you would ask that question. But I think it's more about they feel good about some certain guys. So while they haven't committed, they feel like they're going to get this guy. There's certain guys that they feel like they're going to get this guy. But I wouldn't read too much into they haven't got to commit yet. You got a while. I know they're going to host kids on January 3rd weekend, so there's going to be guys, and there's guys that is materializing with their plan. I think their plan is still pretty solidly in place of what they want for every position. But I wouldn't really panic about getting them immediately committed. I think you have to make sure it's right before you just take guys that are talented. There's a process to this more so than just, hey, this guy was really good and he's got really great stats and his PFF grade is incredible and we got to have him. It's like he's got to fit you. Like he's
Yeah.
got to fit Florida State and when you look at their history the last 2 years of their hit rate of these guys, there's a reason for that because they were very selective. They were very careful about they know this guy fits everything. And as I said with these visits with the quarterbacks, it wasn't just, oh, these quarterbacks are coming in. They got to show that FSU, or FSU wants them. It's a job interview for both sides. It's not just one side where you got to see as FSU, like, hey, does this guy fit our culture and our team? Do the players like him? Do they connect? Does he have a connectability to them from a culture standpoint? There's a lot of things that go into it. And it's not just if they're talented. And I know people like to tag me every time there's a guy that enters the portal and it's like, are they going after him? It's like there's a lot of in-depth background process when it comes to researching all these guys. Like they're talking to anybody that has some kind of relationship with this player to make sure that this guy is the best. It's like just if you're in business and you're choosing the right company that you're going to merge with or you're going to have a relationship with that's going to help you, you're going to make sure it fits you. and I think that's what they're doing. And I do think they'll get the guys they value, but at the same time, there's a significant process to timeline as far as how they want to do it, and they're not going to do it until they know for sure they're sold on it.
Yeah, and for a lack of a better term, they're brutal with the transfers. Like they
Yep.
really. I mean, it's not quite NFL Combine weird energy where you hear about
Yeah.
those weird questions players get, but they are blunt. They are honest, and if they don't like the response that they get, or even the smallest detail, like holding a door open for your mother, something
Yep.
along those lines, if they don't like any of it, they don't want that in the locker room. They can develop you out of high school a little bit more. They'll give you more leeway. You're younger,
Right.
but if you're 21, 22 and you haven't gotten to that place, they don't take you. And they talk about that behind
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, and I've seen that last year, guys, for firsthand, where a kid took an official visit. I'm not going to say who the kid was, but it was more all the way mindset was always NIL, everything centric, and they liked his skill, but they passed on that kid because he took official visit and they went cold on it because there's certain things they look for. They want to see how you handle accountability as far as whatever position you play. They're going to check with everything to see if that fits. Because you come to FSU, there's going to be accountability in everything you do, whether it's academics, whether it's meetings, making sure everything is important. Of if you play for Mike Norvell, you got to be a guy that's going to fit that culture of what he's established. I mean, it's taking him 3 years to get that set up. He sure as hell ain't going to do something to mess that up or change that. So there's got to be accountability. He wants you to be yourself, but he wants to make sure that fits into their cycle of what they're doing, because you want to be a smooth transition for everyone. So he knows what he's coming into, the player, and then the coaches know what they're getting. So I don't think there's any surprise. I think that's probably why you see so many young kids play so early at FSU, because they already knew what was expected when they got there. And the same thing with portal kids, why they settled in so quickly is they got the right guys, and to get the right guys, you have to be very a lot of vetting and a lot of making sure that this guy, because there might be a guy that maybe is a little less talented than the guy that's higher up on the board as far as like talent, but if he doesn't fit what you do,
Mm-hmm.
then eventually he's going to go back in the portal anyway, and he doesn't fit, and so you're looking again to that same spot. So I think this staff is very, very careful and selective of the guys they want here.
Yeah, NIL is toxic enough for anybody in any locker room. You don't need to add a culture, like a bad fit culture-wise on top of that. It gives you enough
Yeah.
headaches as it is.
And
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and let's end this stuff. Like I see this stuff all over Twitter. Like FSU has an NIL problem. They do not have an NIL problem.
Mm-mm.
Okay, they have like 5,000 members from Battles Inn. They're fine. That group has done a phenomenal job. There's no problems. Just because say if a kid's gonna flip from FSU, it doesn't mean that FSU didn't do their part in NIL. So people need to let. I think that's like a defense mechanism, Tom, of people when you don't get a guy, they think like, oh, you're either stingy with your money or the NIL stinks. There's nothing, no NIL problems, guys. So please, I mean, just stop that narrative. Like, are there kids that believe in certain places that are a little better? Yes, but is there NIL problems? No, there's no NIL problems. So just squash that and let's move on to something else.
Yeah, the other thing is you're bidding against yourself if you overpay for one player one
Yeah.
year, because then the next year you got to pay more and more and more. So there's a guardrail, but yeah, money's not an issue. They've got it. They've got it. Yeah. Nearly 1,400 of you watching right now. We want to let you know, as we hit one of the biggest weeks of the year on warchant.com, that we've got a special for you on the website side. We want to see some of you, nearly 1,400. There's got to be some people who are just hearing about us for the first time, watching us for the first time. Welcome here. Hit the thumbs up button underneath the video. The channel is always free, so you can subscribe here for absolutely free. But we've got a signing day special for you right now, $54.99 for 1 year. That is a tremendous special. You are going to love warchant.com. Everything from the recruiting side of the operation, which is what we're doing right now. This is the season. This is Michael Langston's season when he goes to work. Well, Matt Lasser doing a great job, like landing the Cam Ward interview. He landed an exclusive yesterday. You want to read things like that, insights like that, you got to sign up for warchant.com. That's the special. Unlimited access and scoop, as it says, the signing day special for a year at half price. Outstanding savings. Give us a shot. Let us earn your business. We can't wait to show off for you this week at warchant.com and Warchant TV. And Michael, tonight on the channel, there's a new method that people are tuning in. They're on Instagram. We're finally getting up with the times. The players go on Instagram all the time. That's where we're going to be pulling a lot of signing ceremonies from on Wednesday as those things come in. So hello to everybody on Instagram. The one issue, Michael, is that when they comment and ask questions, it doesn't appear in our feed. So Director Ben has let me know that Instagram really, specifically that social media, wants to know a lot about Marvin Jones Jr. What do you got in terms of that particular transfer arriving on campus and some of the behind-the-scenes things that you've heard for the past few days?
Yeah, so for instance, like for people that were wondering when I mentioned as I was leaving that he opted not to interview, guys, that was not a surprise. It's like, because if you watch the whole weekend, they were sneaking him around. He was being incognito, where he wanted to just absorb everything and not have this be some circus show of hey, legacy recruit back on campus. I think FSU did a phenomenal job of making sure like he's treated as Marvin Jones, and not just the legacy recruit, son of a legacy recruit. I don't think that was ever brought up. It was like, and they were talking like, we like the Marvin Jones the person, and we like Marvin Jones the Jr. the player. So I think it's went really good. I feel it's likely that the ultimate result is good for FSU. Good news. I do feel confidence in that. I think he's coveted from them. Um, I will say this too with Marvin. He's not. If people are thinking like he's Jermaine Johnson, and you come right in and it's immediate impact guy, he's not that yet. Like, will he be that? I think he can be, but there's some development still to clean up with his game. There's a lot of time he had at Georgia where he played, but there's stuff to clean up and into the system. But they also definitely know what type of talent he would bring, especially to the depth, and certainly he would play. There's no question he would get on the field, and certainly had a great plan of how they're going would orchestrate that as far as his skill level. And but overall, I think it went really good. But like I said, he was very reserved and um, chatted with me a few times when he'd come by, and just I could tell it was very business-like and football oriented. I want to see everything, but I also don't want to be it where when he was in high school, it's more fanfare and people taking notice of you. But now you're in college, it's all business to see if this was everything that he had hoped. And everything I've heard is pretty positive of how the visit resonated with him. I think they were jetting out on a plane around 8:50. He took in a practice, two practices actually. I think the day before he was at practice, went to a meeting, all these things. So he got to get the full experience of what it would be like as a player, and I think it went pretty good.
Okay. Well, that's good news. I didn't hear that yet. See, like sometimes things come right before the show, and Michael's giving me news just as he's giving everybody news here on Warchant TV. Hit the like button if you like that update, because that sounds very promising for Marvin Jones Jr. and coming home, so to speak, to Florida State. Yep. Last couple of questions here on Sunday Smash, presented by State Farm agent Russ Forhis, an awesome Seminole in his own right. Mark asks, Ohio State's quarterback situation is in more doubt than FSU. So does FSU need to sign one of these guys for Jeremiah Smith to flip? I'm assuming he's talking about the transfer portal.
Right.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Michael.
Yeah.
There's maybe a high-profile flip to Nebraska. They've got a guy that just went to Syracuse out of the transfer portal. Florida State might be in a more stable position. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of great young quarterbacks. I think very highly of Brock Glenn. I think very obviously highly of Luke Krumhawk. I've said that many times. And you also still have Tate there, although if you get a transfer portal quarterback, I think the kind of expectation is after the bowl game, you would think it's hard to see him sticking that out, in my opinion. But yeah, I do think it's important to get a top quarterback prospect. Certainly either one of those guys I think is going to do the trick. But yeah, I mean, Jeremiah does want to know that you're getting one, so that's why I think there's a process to this stuff. But then that's why I think they wanted to get these guys in there so they can kind of decide, who they're going to push the hardest for or get. So you get that done, and you would think it won't take long now that they've visited. So we'll see, but yeah, I do think it's pivotal when you're with Jeremiah Smith, and I think a lot of players of just getting a top-notch quarterback because guys want to see who they're going to play with. And let's face it, if Jeremiah came to FSU, he's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
he's going to want to know who the guy is, have a feeling with him. So, yeah, I think it's very important to certainly get a quarterback to entice, a talented prospect like him. Not only that, the talented prospects that you have coming in from high school, like Elijah Moore, Camden Fryer, all these BJ Gibson, all these guys that are coming in, they might be able to work with him. So, yeah, I think it's very important.
I'm a big Elijah Moore fan. I look forward to seeing him on
Yeah.
campus, Michael. He's that's a talent right there. So related to that, kind of you already hit on this. We're gonna say if Jeremiah flips and Florida State gets great news, we're gonna expel him from this answer. Besides KJ, because we know he's gonna play if he comes here. Besides KJ, what other incoming freshmen may play early? You put your eyes on these guys years in advance, Michael. Who do you think is developed enough in the 24 class to come in and play in year one?
Well, I think Elijah Moore is going to play a lot just because they don't have a lot of big guys like him physically wise. They have height, but just big physical guys that can go across the middle. He seems to fit that category. I think he's a guy that you could see getting in some early playing time as far as getting on the field. I think he's a guy that will impress a lot. I think I think the linebacker position, Jaden Parrish, is one that I think will get into that rotation as well. South Florida baller that I think very highly of. That I feel like he can come in there and he can certainly help your depth. I'm not saying he's going to be pushing for the ones or twos, but I think he will have a mold in a spot in there as far as them getting him very active. So that those are kind of a couple of guys. Man, there's so many. I think Lester could help you a lot on special teams early on. We'll have to see where he ultimately ends up. I actually ran into Charles, by the way, as I was waiting for all these guys there, and Charles got his, I guess his letter and everything. He bring it home to sign, and so he's excited about being a Seminole. So that's a guy that I don't think Charles, from a position standpoint, will be like ready in there, but I think on special teams he's a guy that's a weapon, and I think they could use and utilize. I think early playing time you could certainly see him, doing some work on special teams. So those are a few of the guys. I think BJ Gibson's very unheralded. Like, kind of he does a lot of the similar things that people see with Ja'Kai Douglas. So he's very Swift Army knife, you might say. Just he
Yeah.
can use you can use the outside, you can use the inside, and just a dynamic receiver that could certainly potentially help you out there. And then depending on what they land, I think there's some other guys like McCray and Smith and certainly that we would add in there to go along with KJ Bolden. But I think those are some of the few that's off the top of my head.
So, Michael, this is obviously the big week.
Yeah.
I know you enjoy it coming and then you enjoy it going, maybe all the more when it's all said and done. But just in terms of your next 24 hours, like, folks, if you're putting in the chat right now, for example, what are your predictions? We're going to do that before Wednesday. But
Yeah.
tonight's not that night. More intel needs to be
Yeah.
gathered from this final OV weekend and maybe some of the final whispers from guys like a Jeremiah Smith before those things come about. But what's your next day or so like, Michael, as we gear towards Wednesday, where we're going to have a lot of content?
Well, I think a lot of it is you're trying to figure out when the ceremonies are, when the signings are, making sure you have all the information and intel for that. One guy we haven't talked about is defensive end Amari Williams, who visits four-star defensive end, high school kid. I think it went really well with him. I feel pretty good about where FSU sits coming out of that visit. He wouldn't answer us if he was going to sign on Wednesday, but you kind of felt like just the way his body language was that there's a good chance he will. But that's a guy that I feel like they did a great job over the weekend with. But overall, just first you're finding out when these guys are doing it, and then you're just gathering intel of we'll have predictions, we'll have maybe nightly nuggets if I have enough that we can throw in there. Kind of difficult and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Just where you have a select few of guys that you're monitoring, compared to, I think, previous years where we've done this, where you're following like 5 or 6 guys, and it's more so 2 or 3 probably this year. So I think you're just checking on intel, and we might even do like a 5 to watch or something like that, for high school, that we'll get ready. But it's just a lot of intel behind the scenes breaking down to make sure everything goes as kind of we expected. So I'm always checking on this stuff. As I mentioned to people at the start of this, we'll have a recruiting wrap. It won't be late tonight. So if you need to go to bed, I understand, but it'll be late tonight because I got to make some calls, see what goes on, and then I will probably have a recruiting wrap to kind of discuss more of these recruitments in detail. But we'll have it the next 48 hours and stuff to get you guys ready for that Wednesday. But we'll be ready. But overall, I think too, the thing we almost unappreciate, Tom, at times is like what guys they already have in this class.
Right.
We
Yeah.
mentioned them earlier. Cam Davis, phenomenal running back. Luke Romanhawk, incredible quarterback. Elijah Moore. A lot of these guys, it's a really good class. Regardless of what they keep or don't keep, you want to keep everyone, but that you have committed. But I think overall, we sometimes lose sight of how good of a class they've done and the guys they put together. So overall, I think it's pretty solid. You just want to finish it and make sure you keep the guys you're supposed to, and then maybe flip 1 or 2 if you can in there. But I think overall, both me and Matt will be very busy. Just kind of getting everything ready. But that's kind of where my plan is the next 2 days, is just getting everything set up for what will be a Wednesday. And Tom is right. It's more exciting for me of the going than it is getting to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I enjoy the going, but then we can focus on the portal and then some more 2025 stuff. But overall, guys, we live for this stuff, and that's why I do it. I love what I do, and I love the grind of it. And we'll see if they can finish the way they hope they do.
Hat tip again to Matt Lasser from behind the scenes. Big part of the recruiting coverage we have here. Michael Langston is the senior recruiting analyst for Warchant.com. My assumption is we don't know a precise one yet, but Tuesday night we'll get together again, I would think, for a brief, primer the night before. We'll get together right here on Warchant TV. You'll find us on Tuesday night here, setting the tone for Wednesday when we go a long time on Wednesday.
Yep.
We get together in the morning. There's a handoff to the Jeff Cameron show at 1 o'clock on the same link. And then, usually, Michael, it's done by about 3 Eastern, but if it isn't, then we'll keep going live until that last person has their signing ceremony. So it's going to be a jam-packed few days on Warchant TV, warchant.com. Hit the like button under the video, subscribe to the channel. It's free. And head over to warchant.com for the latest. Again, if you have this thing, folks, where, Michael, I'm getting into my 40s now soon. I wake up in the middle of the night every night. Mm-hmm. So if you're like me and so many people out there, that's when you head over to the PRB. There might be in the middle of the night some nuggets from Michael. But as always, Michael, I appreciate it. Look forward to a week of hopefully not hell, but heavenly development.
There you go. Positive thinking. And, it's kind of like when you go to more for these visits. You don't know. Sometimes we have to change things and be in fluid as far as when I'll pop in on signing day. But overall, I'm excited about it. Just to finish off the year. Certainly, it's been a great year for FSU on the field, 13-0. Regardless of what happens in this, final game, don't let rival fans take that away from you, Nole fans. Like what they've done this year is just monstrous as far as this game. So understand that. We know there's going to be a lot of opt-outs. We've already seen that some today. So soak it all in and understand where your program is headed, and it's headed in a really good direction. And I think Tom said this at the start. The fact that the 2 quarterbacks came in for visits tells you of how FSU is viewed from a national standpoint for 2 great quarterbacks. So I think that really speaks to the volume of how far this program's come with Mike. So soak it all in, guys, except don't let the rivals fans get to you where this is what they do because they have nothing else. They don't have a season to lean on. You do. So remember that.
That's true. It is 8:06 on the East Coast, and the playoff committee is still a bunch of shills. For Michael Langston, the senior recruiting analyst for our own Ira Schoffel, who started the program tonight. He's the managing editor of Warchant.com, director Ben behind the scenes, who always does phenomenal work. My name is Tom Lang. This has been Sunday Smash, presented by State Farm agent Russ Voorhis. Support him. Florida, Georgia, Alabama. He can serve all of you across those 3 states. RussVoorhis.com. Good night, everybody. We'll be talking to you very soon on Warchant TV and Warchant.com.